Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel, or back to the channel if this is not your first time. If it is your first time, then welcome the first time. Today we're going to be unboxing and reviewing this one, which is a very specific line in the Marvel Legends from Hasbro. They do these really nice VHS style boxes, but the plastic-free packaging, it bothers a lot of people. I, for one, am a huge fan of the plastic-free packaging because, especially as like an out-of-box collector, much less waste, and we need that. So with reviews on this channel, we always start with an overview, then we look at details, articulation, and then posing. And then actually at the end of that, we do a scoring of all of those things. So you get like a nice rating system that I've been doing since day one, and we can kind of, man, it'd be really nice to have like a full list of where I've put everything. Like an Excel sheet? It's gotta be something better than an Excel sheet. All right, well, let's get into it. So with this series, it's actually based on the animated series from the 90s. So we actually are gonna see cell shading techniques on the figures, which you can kind of see here on the back of the packaging. Most of them don't have a whole lot going on. There's usually just some smaller pieces like this. So like here in the white areas, and then the body doesn't have any cell shading, which is actually kind of nice. A lot of people don't like the cell shading. I am indifferent. I'm not totally sure whether or not I like it. But let's look at an overview of this packaging. So obviously right off the bat, it's telling us here, plastic free, Hasbro. We get some warning signs. It's for ages 4 and up. So is that the case? Because I know there are some smaller pieces in here that could be choking hazards, right? And I guess 3-year-olds, whatever. So with the box, obviously the VHS style, you always have the villains and the heroes with their profiles on the side of the box too. And if you line them up right, like we see back here, you can actually have like the heroes versus villains. There aren't many villains yet, mostly heroes. And we have Cyclops that shows up sometime next year, April of 2023. So you can pre-order that now if you're a fan of Cyclops. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any optic blast that attaches to his head, which is crazy to me. Anyway, back to this one. With Hasbro, they're always great about having multiple languages, which is awesome. But as I always point out, they never give any credit to the artists. And Dan, the man, creates all the artwork for the front of these boxes. And obviously we're gonna share that information here. You can follow him on social media. He's one of the best. So as we see here, it's the figure and 5 accessories. The downside from this packaging is that we're not getting a view of that. And I can see the kind of, you know, frustration versus packaging like this. You can actually see through the packaging. You get to see what accessories come with it. So I mean, that's a huge difference between, you know, but this is like a retro style card. Obviously there's other styles like this one, which have a very clear window. But with Hasbro, whatever their mission was, their mission statement of trying to help the planet. So let's, without further ado, we've gone over the box essentially. There's some information here. None of this really matters, but it's there. So let's just open it up and see what we got already. These are super easy to get into. It's just a simple cut across the tape there, and you're in. And I love that these packages really are their own work of art because you can display them. You can have the figure out, but also keep the packaging. So let's pull out the Mystique and then the accessories, which are down in here, but there's a nice bent piece of cardboard that actually simple, and that's it. Just a piece of paper talking about warning of choking hazards in a lot of different languages, and then just some, you know, whatever BS that nobody really cares about. So let's get that out of the way. Let's get the cardboard out of the way. So the paper packaging on these, pretty simple. Probably really noisy for a microphone. So a piece of cardboard to help hold everything in place. All right, so in overview, what we have in the box, we have a couple extra hands, a couple guns, we have little baby Nightcrawler, Mystique herself. Now let's check out the details of this figure. So Hasbro, obviously with the cartoon stuff, you're gonna have kind of flat paint work. There's not much you can do in terms of detail when it comes to the painting, So they spend a lot of time in the sculpting of all the fine details. So most of it you're gonna see really like this, right? So the way it's etched into the face details. So they've done a nice job there. The little skull on the top of her head, the hair, which is, I believe this is a similar head sculpt that's used in a different version of her, maybe the Walgreens exclusive, but then they changed the hair. We got to be on par with the animated series. So the only real things we can call out in detail are going to be the etch work. So in the muscular areas, right? It's kind of, you can see all of that. But, you know, so here we go with the cell shading, this kind of animated cartoon look where it's supposed to have these shadows going on, which I get the attempt here of trying to do that. At the end of the day, if you have lighting, you're going to get shadows anyway. So was it really necessary to paint it that way? Is it just a way to release a similar figure in a different paint scheme? Because we've essentially had her before, but we're just getting this reworked hair and the new colors. Not a lot to speak on as far as details go. I mean, it's pretty accurate to the cartoon in my opinion, just from memory alone and from Dan's box art. So let's look at Baby Kurt Wagner. Little Nightcrawler. So he's got a pacifier, classic yellow eyes. So this is actually really nicely done. For a plastic figure, this really does have this cloth look, but the details are really nice when you consider how small this guy is. Look at those ears and that hair. That is a nice head of hair for a baby. Good Lord. So the extra set of hands, which also have cell shading on them. This gun, which, oh, did I do that? Okay, so we've got the larger gun here, which is incredibly boring. Incredibly boring. So it's the same color as her body, which is weird. Why would you want your guns to be the same color as you? So technically her guns are flesh, I guess. If you consider it being the same color as her, that's gross. But hey, you know what? You do you, Mystique. So the etch work is really good. The paint work is what it is, I guess. You're not gonna get much out of that. So the little pistol here, same thing, nice etch work. That's about all we can say about it. Gee, there's a little number 2 on the side of it. So to remind her, you know, when she's messing with her guns, she's like, oh, what's my number 2 gun? And then you just put a 2 on it. And then that's how you know. And then of course that's number 1. So you would always go, oh, remember, number 1 is big gun, number 2 is backup pistol. You know. So pretty straightforward as far as Mystique goes with details, not a lot to say. So let's jump into articulation. So right off the bat, this whole like skirt thing is just constantly going upward, which is annoying, but it's technically articulating. Let's start at the head. So even with this thick hair back here, we're not gonna be able to get any, we can't look up at all. What is the deal with these figures? How can you get them to look up when they have hair like this? So there's like this kind of interesting neck joint. It's not just a downward motion. You can actually she can lurch forward. So that's cool looking. So she can lurch her head forward and then you can go backwards a little bit, but it doesn't allow much. It doesn't do anything to go upward. So downward is really nice, but then it's like, how much hairspray did you use, Mystique, to get your hair to stay like that? Spinning all the way around, which is fantastic. Nothing blocking it, even the hair. Let's see, any kind of tilt? Not really. The arms, all the way around, of course, obviously, they can go out in a T pose, and then spinning that way, which is good. There's no spinning down the forearm, but of course with a figure this thin, how could you do that? The elbow spins all the way around. The articulation is just a single joint, and then backwards just a little bit. And then you get the wrists, which will of course spin, and then you have this 90-degree turn, which is exactly what we would want. Any articulate, what did I just say? Articulation around the waist, it's just gonna be in this upper torso area, which you can get all the way around. That's nice. It's got a little bit of crunching and some tilt. So that's some really good articulation in the upper half of the body, minus the looking up with the head. The legs, wow, that's it. That's as far as they go. How is that possible? There's essentially nothing blocking these legs, but the tiny little area of plastic is touching right there. So now you can't get the legs to do a split. It's just boop, touched. It's so weird. Classic Hasbro is having this seam across the upper thigh, which I think always looks hideous unless there's something going on in the sculpt to hide it. I just hate it. Just give me a better ball joint or something up here. It's so weird. But at least she's one color, so you don't have like a paint scheme that gets cut up when you spin it, like on Rogue. Any other articulation aside from the double jointed knee, which is the best kind of knee? It's just a bummer there's pins, visible pins, but whatever, we'll get over it. So double jointed knees, happy about that. There's no rotation anywhere along that area, just up there. So if you could put a rotation at the calf or something and just get rid of the seam. It's hideous. Ankles, pretty standard, all the way up and down, and then you can get this kind of awkward rotation thing, which I call it awkward because it gets into weird positions, but you become thankful for it when you're trying to position it. I've also noticed that whatever happened with this figure, probably when it was painted and put in with that paper, the cardboard or something, but look at these, there's like little fibers all the way up and down her leg. Like it's winter and she hasn't shaved her legs in quite some time. They're stuck in that paint. Ugh. So articulation, it's fine. There's nothing to write home about. There's a couple things to complain about though. So the head not looking up, and then the fact that the legs get stuck. I mean, not often you're gonna want to put somebody in splits, but what if you need like a good kicking pose? She can't do a kick. It would be like she hasn't stretched and she's trying to kick and she's gonna pull a muscle. Stupid. So probably best that I start doing this in the articulation phase, but let's go ahead and swap out the hands. So there we go. We got her gun hands in play. So we'll get those things and check those out. She's actually got her finger set to be on the trigger, which is cool. And then same thing on this side. Gun 1 and gun 2. That's how you remember, folks. Always label your weapons so you know gun 1 and gun 2. What else is there to say? So pretty straightforward. Not a whole lot to say as far as Mystique goes with the details and articulation. So let's jump in to posing. All right, so with Mystique, posing obviously requires a stand. It doesn't have to be the one that I used, but that's the only one I have that works with Hasbro figures for now. So I do definitely need just a simple base one that goes into their feet, but I can make this one work. So with her and rating, let's get into the detail score. I think, you know, etching is really nice, like the sculpt work is good, you know, the muscles and the hair and all the little details of the skulls and stuff, those are great. The paint is basic, which I guess it should be. It's a cartoon figure. So as far as accuracy to the cartoon, maybe that's how we should rank this. Let's go with a 3 out of 5. So she's not bad at all, but the guns are so basic. And I don't know, I mean, maybe I need to look up the cartoon or something, but why are her guns the same color as her skin? Anywho, that's my score. Let's get on to articulation. So articulation overall isn't awful because I was able to get some posing that I didn't think I could get. However, that hair and that head, which just seems to be the way it goes with most of these figures. Articulation could certainly be better, but it's not too bad. I will give it a 3 out of 5, which brings us to posing. And I was able to get some poses out. Definitely needed the stand. I wish that she could just stand on her own a little bit better, but for the most part, she is spinning, which causes some complications. If you're just sitting her on the shelf, it's probably not so bad, but any vibrations of the shelf, she's gonna fall over, and then you get like a domino effect, which is annoying. Posing overall though, you can definitely get some cool stuff out of her. The guns are kind of okay. You can't quite get the poses you would want, you know, of her holding the guns in different ways, but I don't know. I don't really think of her with guns when I think of Mystique. So posing, I'm gonna give her a 3 out of 5. It just seems to be the case for these Marvel Hasbro Legends. So there we have it with Mystique from the Marvel Legends, the VHS collection. I think she's certainly worth the money. She's got some flaws, but you know, this whole series is kind of not perfect. It's more of a touching on a nostalgia thing, I think, for the most part. But if you missed out on Mystique from Walgreens, she's super expensive now, so pick up this one. I think it's worth adding to the collection if you're trying to get your X-Men collection up. But yeah, it's affordable and still available depending on when you watch this video, of course. But even if you just get it for the box art, man, it's definitely worth it. So thanks as always for watching this show, and let me know down in the comments if this is one of the figures that you definitely wanted to add to your collection, or if this review helped you make your decision. We'll see you next time.